Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dane's Death, where each week I ask a guest about a different advising topic. Today, I'd love to welcome my friend Joe. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Doing good, Dane. How are you? Thanks for having me in.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Joe, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. A higher ed professional my entire career, and with the exception of about 8 months of that career, it's been all in career services. And so heavily involved with student counseling, really anything from what do you want to major in to finding a job, finding an internship, preparing for that interview. And so it's a rewarding field for sure. And then the job itself, there's a lot of variety in it, a lot of different conversations. So I really enjoy it. Beyond my work, I'm also involved in the Eastern Association of Colleges and Employers. It's a regional professional organization similar to NACADA for you folks in academic advising. We talk a lot about career services and recruitment and HR on that side of things too. So certainly an organization that I'm proud to be a part of, and has helped me to grow immensely within my own professional career.
Nice, that's awesome. All right, Joe. So the reason I have you on is, besides being a good friend of mine, you're in career advising. So today's topic for Dane's Desk is that topic of the integration of academic and career advising. What are your thoughts? What's your opinion on this?
Sure. Well, let me first start by saying that where I am right now, we are not an integrated office. So career services and academic advising sit separately. However, there's a lot of advantages, I think, to an integration such as career services and academic advising. And I'll also point out that even though we are not integrated where I am at Salem State, we do have a good relationship with that office, and a lot of communication does happen between the two. Going back to those advantages of, what would it look like if they are integrated? Well, number one, and I think most obviously, it's more convenient for students, right? So anytime you can develop some sort of one-stop shop to conduct business, I think it's advantageous to students. So there's a win right there. And then two, I think there's a lot of commonalities between academic advising and career services. And so, if you bring the two together, I think naturally just more communication will begin to happen between those two spaces. And with that communication, I think would be more referrals, right? So I'm having a conversation, perhaps I can refer a student over to academic advising and vice versa. And when we look at the expertise level of both of those areas, so academic advisors tend to be the ones with the more in-depth knowledge around curriculum, and then can also speak to specific classes. A lot of tie-in right there to career exploration. And then on the career advising side of it, we kind of have that in-depth knowledge around how students can market themselves towards particular roles that they might be interested in, whether it's an internship, or a full-time job. And so I think even as in my instance, a career services professional who's more of a generalist, there's a lot of advantages that can happen between those types of conversations. And I think there's two important areas that I would really want to highlight, or I would even call them phases, if you will, that I think can be most advantageous to students. So one is going to be in the exploration phase. Okay, so now we're talking about students who might be undeclared, who might need some assistance with choosing a major. Or you might find students who say to themselves, well, I'm majoring in something, I really enjoy it, but I don't know what I can actually do with that degree. And so I think that's where we can kind of come in together to be talking about how do we service this student to help them to make that most informed decision, right? And so I think for me, and my point of view as a career professional, really sharing those resources. We use an online tool called Focus 2, really helpful for students to identify their strengths, right? And to determine what do I have an interest in, where might I want to go? And I think the correlation to academic advising can happen within those first classes, right? If I have an interest in this area, what should I be doing, or what could my schedule potentially be looking like? And then two, when I go into more of the developmental phase, right? So thinking about now of I'm putting myself in the shoes of the student. I now have an idea of what it is that I want to do. For us as career services professionals, it's helping them to market themselves to get to where it is that they want to go, right? And I think a lot of times the reluctancy for students is, well, I don't have any experience. So when we look at academic advising and career services, classes, projects that they've done, a lot of that can be supplemental in terms of experience, prior to going in for an internship. So myself and us on the career counseling side, we can help students to create their resume and market themselves effectively. And I'm going to go to you guys as the experts on what classes should these students be taking, right? What are they going to be involved in? How is it going to help them to grow within their field? And so when I summarize this, if you will, and kind of bring this all together, I think about 4 important factors that really, I think, play into all of our work daily, regardless if you're on the career side of it, or if you're on the academic side of it. 1 is that we want to retain our students. 2, we want them to persist, right? 3, and really important, we want them to graduate. But also, 2, there's number 4, which is we want them to be employed, right? So if you factor in all those things together, I think an integration between these 2 spaces really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, and I love how you highlight kind of like the 2 different groups of students that we could potentially work with. Those who are in that exploration phase and are undecided, undeclared, who need that initial help, but also those students who may already know what they want, but it's really about developing their skills and getting them ready for whatever their career goals are, or even, grad school or whatever it may be. So again, yeah, I can't stress enough, and I urge our viewers to really get to know your campus partners, especially those in career services, because making those connections at the employee level can only benefit your students and students that you work with. Check out the latest episode of the Adventures in Advising podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel here, and feel free to leave comments below if you like this video or if you want to see different topics. Joe, thanks very much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Dane. It's always a pleasure.